It's been a long off season without football, but FanDuel has spent it getting into the best shape of their lives. That means this. FanDuel is ready for more. More ways to play. More ways to challenge your friends. And most importantly, more ways to win. FanDuel also has new options for playing daily fantasy with your friends, because the only thing better than winning cash is winning your friends cash. Right now, you can get a $20 bonus when you make your first deposit on FanDuel. Just sign up at FanDuel.com/Stephen A. Age and state restrictions apply.
Message and data rates may apply.
When did it become okay for men to be lazier, softer, fatter? We need to bring the men of this country back to greatness. And it's easier than ever with Ageless Male Max, a patent-pending formula with an ingredient that helps boost your total testosterone, promoting greater increases in muscle size and twice the reduction of body fat percentage than exercise alone. Plus, an amazing 64% increase in nitric oxide, which can be handy in the gym and in the bedroom. Take your manhood to the max by trying your first 30-day bottle free. Just pay shipping and handling. Not 10 days, not 15 days, but a full 30-day supply free when you text the word LIFT to 797979. Finally, a formula that boosts total testosterone. If your results with Ageless Male Max are too intense, please decrease use. For your free bottle, text LIFT to 797979. Text LIFT to 797979.
This is the Stephen A. Smith Show podcast.
I'm Stephen A. What's up, everybody? Welcome to the latest edition of the Stephen A. Smith Show, coming at you as I love to do every weekday over the airwaves of ESPN Radio, 250 plus markets across the United States of America, plus ESPN Radio on Sirius XM Channel 80, and obviously simulcast live over the national television airwaves, courtesy of ESPN News. Number to call up as always is 888-SAY-ESPN. That's 888-729-3776. You can catch me on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram at Stephen A. Smith. First of all, let me say it's wonderful to be back. I've been gone for a little while, obviously. As everybody knows, I had a death in the family. My father passed away, and then after that, there were some obligations that we had to deal with as it pertained to ESPN. So I've been out of the loop for a little while, but I am back in full effect, and I am not taking any time off for the foreseeable future. I want to thank everybody out there who've been supportive of the show, the well wishes that I've received. People reached out to talk about missing me and how they were looking forward to me coming back. I do not like taking time off. I'm excited about this NFL season. I'm excited about this college football season. I'm excited about this NBA season more so than I've been in years. And I'm ready to roll. So stay tuned. Trust me, I won't be out anytime in the foreseeable future. Not as far as I can help it. I can tell you that much. Let me get right into it. Labor Day weekend is over. We are back in full effect today. And already some people have gotten on my damn nerves. Let me just be very, very clear. Already people have gotten on my damn nerves. Now, I'm trying to be cool. I'm trying to be nice. I really, really am. I'm trying to be cool, but this whole Nike thing with involving Colin Kaepernick, I mean, you know what? Maybe, let me look at my producers when I say this. Maybe someday what happen, maybe I'm going to make money over saying the sky is blue. I mean, when you talk about people being Captain Obvious, that's how I feel about what Nike has done with Colin Kaepernick. Why don't you just tell us the sky is blue and let me make some money off of that? Everybody's sitting around talking about Colin Kaepernick because of Nike commemorating Colin Kaepernick. Okay? And their 30th anniversary of their Just Do It mantra or their Just Do It campaign. According to the news reports, let me just make sure I get this out of here. Face of NFL protest is now the face of the new Nike campaign. Colin Kaepernick, the former NFL quarterback who inspired a player protest movement, but who has been out of a job for more than a year, has signed a new multi-year deal with Nike that makes him a face of the 30th anniversary of sports apparel company Just Do It campaign, Nike confirmed on Monday. The first advertisement from Nike, one of the league's top partners, debuted Monday afternoon when Kaepernick tweeted it, assuring that his activism and the protest movement against racism and social injustice he started would continue to loom over one of the country's most powerful sports league. Nike will produce new Kaepernick apparel, including a shoe and a t-shirt. And if the merchandise sells well, the value of the deal will rival those of other top NFL players, according to people close to the negotiations who spoke on condition of anonymity because Nike had not formally announced it. Nike will also donate money to Kaepernick's Know Your Rights campaign. The NFL did not immediately respond to requests for comment. The ad in the campaign coming a few days before the start of the NFL season on Thursday is likely to annoy the league's top executives and its owners. On Thursday, Kaepernick won a victory in his grievance against the league when an arbitrator led his case in which he accuses the league of conspiring to keep him off the field because of his activism advance. A wave of on-field protests has continued with varying degrees of intensity since summer of 2016 when Kaepernick began kneeling during the playing of the national anthem. First of all, make no mistake, you'll hear the president from this. I promise you the president's going to tweet about this. That's number one. Number two, everybody's sitting up there and they're saying Nike ahead of the curve, Nike on the right side of history, Nike. Well, bravo, Nike. Congratulations for being so damn obvious. Here's my question to Nike. Where the hell have you been? 2 years. For the last 2 years, you have been paying Colin Kaepernick. Where were the advertisements? Where was the marketing? Where were the T-shirts and the shoes? Where was that at? Where were those merchandise? What was going on? You were a bit late to the party. And so now that Nike has jumped on the bandwagon, essentially hijacking the issue themselves, we're going to find ourselves talking about what Nike did instead of what Colin Kaepernick supposedly intended. On one hand, you got the president hijacking the issue and making it into an issue of patriotism when it was never about that. And on the other hand, now you have Nike essentially positioning themselves to be talked about and ultimately to profit off of this behind the guise or the guise of social activism on their own behalf. So we're talking about Nike, or we're talking about President Trump, but we ain't talking about Colin Kaepernick. And Colin Kaepernick, guess what, has something to do with that. And we got a whole bunch of people out here that's scared to just call it like it is. At some point in time, can we be honest and can we be real about this? This is not Tom Brady that we're talking about. Hell, this ain't Donovan McNabb or Warren Moon. This is Colin Kaepernick. Last 2 years we saw Colin Kaepernick. Let me tell y'all what we saw. We saw a 3-16 record as a starter. We saw a QBR under 50 both seasons. That's what we saw. We saw a man lose his starting job to Blaine Gabbert. I'm going to repeat that. We saw a man lose his starting job to Blaine Gabbert. That's what we saw. Now, do I think that there are owners who might have texted one another, who may have colluded, who may have sat up there and said, you know what? We don't want him in this league because remember, collusion is not an entire league. It's not an entire cadre of people. All you got to do is have two people. And if they're having contact with one another, guess what? It can be interpreted as a form of collusion. But my question to you, ladies and gentlemen, rhetorically or otherwise, is can we stop playing games? If you are an owner in a National Football League, mad respect and love for Colin Kaepernick, having enough love for folks to bring attention to social injustice, racial inequality, police brutality, I got it. I understand it. I appreciate it. But can we be honest? If you are an owner of a National Football League team, do you really need to collude with anyone to not want Colin Kaepernick? Now, that doesn't mean there was no collusion. I am fully aware of that. Since the case is proceeding, let's remember that if a summary judgment is granted, Colin Kaepernick could end up, him and his legal team can end up getting a hold of text messages. And those text messages from owners or commissioners or other executives and administrators can be very indictable. You might see stuff in those text messages that they've exchanged with one another that can put guys in a very, very precarious position. That is undeniable. I understand it. I truly do. But let's be honest. Do you really need to collude to make the call that you don't necessarily want Colin Kaepernick? At the end of the day, you're average. And if you're average, but I believe you've compromised my bottom line, why would I want you? I need to consult with another owner in order to get in the way of that? I don't need to talk to anybody. I got 2 eyes. I know how to read a balance sheet. Risk, reward, I measure it against one another. I make a call. And the bottom line is, I may not want you. You lost to Blaine Gabbert. You weren't kneeling then. So we got to just be honest about what we're talking about here. We got to be honest about what we're seeing here. We got to be honest about what we're dealing with here. It is time for this. Now, if I sound a bit annoyed or a bit truculent in my own way, it's simple. I'm tired of hearing of everybody else speak about Colin Kaepernick without hearing from Colin Kaepernick. That's what I'm tired of hearing. I want to hear from Colin Kaepernick. I haven't seen him, haven't heard from him. Everybody else talking about him and have gone about the business of trying to martyr him. Colin Kaepernick was socially conscious enough to take a knee during the singing of the national anthem. I can respect that. I truly, truly can. But in the same breath, we got to put things in its proper perspective. We haven't even talked about Colin Kaepernick, the football player, and what we were seeing. We haven't even talked about his 3-16 record as a starter the last 2 seasons in San Francisco. We haven't talked about the fact that he opted out of his own contract. We haven't talked about the fact that he got beat out of the starting job by Blaine Gabbert. We haven't talked about the pigs on the socks depicting police officers. We haven't talked about the Fidel Castro t-shirt in Miami, where the Cuban population is elevated above 30%. We haven't talked about the girlfriend tweeting and comparing Ray Lewis and owner Steve Bisciotti to the characters in Django played by Leonardo DiCaprio and Samuel L. Jackson. The slave and the Negro who was the friend of the slave, or the friend of the slave owner rather, and Samuel L. Jackson. And Uncle Tom, a sellout personified in terms of the character in the movie. We haven't talked about those things and how Colin Kaepernick said nothing and how this was going on at the time that Steve Bisciotti and was talking to Ray Lewis about bringing him on the Baltimore Ravens. We haven't talked about enough. We've acted like Colin Kaepernick just sat home and has been ostracized. That teams weren't willing to talk to him. That Seattle wasn't willing to talk to him. That Baltimore wasn't willing to talk to him. That Stephen Ross and Miami weren't willing to talk to him. We haven't talked about those things. And now here comes Nike. Now let me say this. Nike's brilliant. Very, very smart businessman. And oh, by the way, Phil Knight has been known for taking on the proverbial underdog, individuals who have been cast aside or questioned, or people attacking them, or whatever the case may be. We haven't, Phil Knight is accustomed to doing this. But let's also understand and let's be real about what we're talking about here. Phil Knight is the boss of Nike. Nike is the foot apparel giant. They got 90 to 95% of the market share. There is no real competition to them. Them and the Jordan brand, which is a subsidiary of Nike. They dominate. And who's their primary consumer? You got black folks in America making up 14% of the population, but our spending power escalates above 1.2 trillion, according to reports. So black folks spend money, and if there's one thing they spend money on, is footwear apparel. So am I supposed to sit up here and clap my hands and say, wow, that Phil Knight and Nike, so conscientious. This is really touching. Let me get my tissue. I mean, how thoughtful it is of them. Come on now. Now, according to the reports this morning, after the news came out last night, Nike traded lower Tuesday, meaning today, after the sportswear giant unveiled a new advertising campaign featuring Colin Kaepernick. Okay? Shares traded lower Tuesday after Nike unveiled the new advertising campaign featuring Kaepernick. Nike chose Kaepernick, who's currently suing the NFL for collusion after he failed to find a spot on any team roster despite leading the San Francisco 49ers to the Super Bowl in 2013. To lead the 30th anniversary of its iconic Just Do It campaign that includes tennis superstar Serena Williams and skateboarder Lacey Baker. Kaepernick's participation was first made public via his official Twitter account late Sunday with the phrase, "Believe in something even if it means sacrificing everything." First of all, we're not aware that Kaepernick knew it would sacrifice everything because he didn't announce to the world what he was doing. He just took a knee, and the local and national media ignored it for weeks. And then after he was asked, he told them why he was taking the knee. But even after that, he was still on the roster. He was still playing. And when he left, he opted out of his own contract. Kaepernick wasn't aware it would cost him everything. There was no plan here. Why you think the Players Coalition got their own plan, but Kaepernick, along with several like Eric Davis and others, in terms of teammates, have their own other vision? There's no orchestrated, devised plan here. There's never been. Which is why Nike is firmly in position to take over the issue now as we speak. Yes, you sell T-shirts and shoes. How much you want to make a bet? People are going to be buying that stuff in droves. Their share might be down about 3% now, but it's still up 27% year over year. And I promise you, Nike will profit off of this. And I promise you that now when people are talking about this issue, they will be talking about Nike or President Trump. So President Trump with his constituency is going to profit off of it in his own way. Make no mistake about it. And Nike's going to do the same. And what is it going to do for Colin Kaepernick? What's it going to do for Colin Kaepernick? 888-SAY-ESPN. That's 888-729-3776. That's one item on my mind. I'll get to my New York Yankees losing yet another game in a little while. Still worried about them. I've just given up, y'all. Just to let y'all know, I'm a diehard Yankee fan. I've just given up. Yankees ain't winning no damn thing. They're going to go to the playoffs. They're going to win. They're going to lose a one-game wild card playoff spot, and they're going to go home after 162 games. That's what's going to happen. They're not better than Cleveland. They're not better than Houston, and they're not better than Boston. Damn it, they ain't better than the Oakland A's. That's just how I feel about it. Let me get back to some football on the field. Le'Veon Bell has still not reported to the Pittsburgh Steelers. For those of you who don't know, he recently turned down a 5-year, $70 million deal. The guaranteed money wasn't to his satisfaction. Combine that with the fact that the Steelers had franchise tagged him last year at about $12.2 million, and he's scheduled to make over 14 this year because they had the right to franchise him for a second consecutive year. Le'Veon Bell has not reported yet. If he doesn't report tomorrow, he'll be losing over $800,000 or whatever the case may be. But here's the reality. We got to ask ourselves a question. We know that Le'Veon Bell deserves to get paid. The real question is, how much empathy does he deserve in this situation? I would tell you an awful lot. And I would tell you that more so than the Steelers being culpable, I blame the NFL Players Association. This collective bargaining deal that they agreed to, that gave the National Football League cost certainty over a 10-year period with no out. 10 years, not an out after 6 or 7 years. No out for 10 years. It gave the league its cost certainty with its hard salary cap, with its free to waive and restructure and beyond. Perhaps the most disgusting element of the collective bargaining negotiations is a team's right to franchise tag a player more than once. If you can't reach a contract, a contractual accord, and so I have the right to franchise tag you for one additional year, I'm fine with that. That happens. But for a team to have the license to franchise tag a player, a star player, back-to-back years, I believe is egregious. It's why Aaron Donald wasn't trying to show up. It's why Khalil Mack wasn't trying to show up. And I just look at it from the mindset, you got to be kidding me. Le'Veon Bell did not average that many yards per carry. It was his lowest average yards per carry wise since his rookie year. But he had 85 receptions. He had 321 carries. He touched the ball 406 times. And when Le'Veon Bell talks about getting paid, he's not talking about getting paid just as a running back. He's the second leading receiver on the Pittsburgh Steelers. He had more receptions and more yards than Juju Smith-Schuster. More than Martavis Bryant. More than Jesse James. More than Eli Rogers. He had more than those guys. So his mentality is that, excuse me, are you kidding me? This is what I got to deal with? This is DeMarco Murray for the Dallas Mavericks from years ago, Dallas Cowboys, I'm sorry, years ago, all over again. We run DeMarco Murray into the ground. We give him 392 carries. And then we say, you know what? We ain't trying to pay you. You can leave and go to the Eagles or Tennessee or somewhere else. We'll just draft a cat like Ezekiel Elliott. You Le'Veon Bell, you trying to get paid. And what you're not trying to do is go back in there and put your body through that wear and tear. Placing yourself in a position where they're able to look at you, deduce that you may have lost a step or attrition may have kicked in or you're simply not what you used to be. And that way they have the license to lowball and ostracize you and keep you from what you have rightfully and dutifully earned. Now, I was blessed and fortunate enough on my television show, First Take on ESPN every weekday from 10 a.m. to noon, to have Steelers coach Mike Tomlin today. Mike Tomlin had something to say about Le'Veon Bell and him holding out as it pertains to the effect that it's having on the team right now. Here's what he had to say. Listen to this.
Obviously, that remains to be seen. That's a long-term answer. But to this point, very little. We've been down this road before with the same components or pieces in place, and more than anything, it's provided opportunities for growth and development for James Conner, maybe opportunities that he wouldn't have had Le'Veon been working. So I've tended to focus on that aspect of it. James Conner has had an awesome off-season and training camp and preseason, and he's benefited from it.
That's Mike Tomlin. Talk about James Conner. Nice thing for him to say. He's the coach. He's got to look at the personnel that he's had to work with. But ain't a soul alive want to hear a damn thing about James Conner when you could have Le'Veon Bell in there instead. That's just the reality. 888-SAY-ESPN. It's 888-729-3776. We'll continue talking about this. We'll continue touching on Colin Kaepernick. Colin Kaepernick and Nike. Nike, how you feel about Nike's involvement in all of this now, the position that they've taken? What are your thoughts about Colin Kaepernick still? By the way, bottom line is, are you worried about the protests getting in the way of the 2018 NFL season? It might be fair and about time to ask that damn question. It just might be. 888-SAY-ESPN. That's 888-729-3776. You are listening live to the Stephen A. Smith Show on ESPN Radio and obviously simulcast on ESPN News. By the way, Barbasol is finally making razors. That's a no-brainer. Check out the Barbasol Ultra 6 Plus with 6 ultra-thin blades. Save on Ultra 6 Plus at Barbasol.com. And by the way, fellas, in case you forgot, it's still summer. It's time to get outside, be active, take your girl out, go to a game or a concert, get tickets to something. Plus, football is right around the corner, and the time is now to jump on those tickets. For all your ticket needs, look no further than Vivid Seats, the official ticket partner of ESPN. Also, go to vividseats.com and enter promo code ESPN to get 10% off your first order. Get out. Go have an experience, fellas. Get to the game and use what I use. That's Vivid Seats. 888-SAY-ESPN is always the number to call up. You're listening live to Stephen A. Back in the saddle and ready to go right here on ESPN Radio and ESPN News.
I just saved hundreds of dollars by switching to Geico. I'm as happy as a clam.
Disclaimer. Geico cannot guarantee you will be, quote, as happy as a clam, unquote. The Geico legal team cannot accurately verify clams even experience the complex human emotional state known as happiness. As an invertebrate mollusk living half submerged on the ocean floor, with no arms, legs, or wireless access, what's there to be happy about? A clam's all like, oh, I'm so happy I didn't get turned into New England clam chowder today, pronounced regionally as chowder. Chowder. Oh, that's so fun to say. What were we talking about again?
Geico. 15 minutes could save you 15% or more.
You're listening to the Stephen A. Smith Show podcast.
Fantastic to be back into the saddle. Now that I have my family affairs in order and what have you, it's just great to be back. Sorry, I've been gone a little while, but I am ecstatic to be back. We started off the show talking about Colin Kaepernick and Nike's willingness to commemorate him as the face of their campaign, celebrating the 30th year anniversary of their Just Do It campaign. Colin Kaepernick is the face. They've signed him to a new deal, multi-year deal. They're coming out with shoe apparel. They're coming out with shoes, rather, T-shirts, things of that nature. Very interesting article in today's New York Daily News by Caron, C-A-R-R-O-N. I apologize if I've mispronounced his name, but I think it's Caron J. Phillips, outstanding writer for the New York Daily News. I'm a fan of his work. He talked about how the NFL just can't win for losing. One situation, you got to think about it. NFL and the NFL Players Association still haven't agreed on an anthem policy, and we're only days away from the Thursday night opener between the Philadelphia Eagles and the Atlanta Falcons. You got that as a problem. Then they got some news. The NFL got some news last week that a ruling from an arbitrator that said Kaepernick can proceed with this collusion case against the league, having produced enough sufficient evidence to go to a trial-like hearing. Because obviously if a summary judgment ultimately is granted, you're talking about the potentiality of Colin Kaepernick getting a hold of text messages and beyond from owners, and who knows how incriminating that stuff could be towards his case. Lastly, you've got Nike now, one of the biggest companies in the world. It's got a foothold on the shoe apparel industry, 95% market share, something along those lines. Not specifically, please don't quote me on that, but it's up there. But they also make the NFL uniforms. They've stepped up and they put the world on notice that supposedly they've got Kaepernick's back and they don't plan on budget. So you've got that going on. Now, me personally, it's a beautiful business move by Nike. And I have no issue with Nike making this business move. They're in the business to make money. And I got no problems with them. Just don't sit up there and wax poetically or sanctimoniously about how you're trying to do the right thing. Colin Kaepernick has been in their stable all of this time. You haven't seen or heard a word from them in regards to Colin Kaepernick. Been no commercials. Been no ad campaigns. Been nothing like that going on. Okay? Over these last 2 years when he's been looking for a job. So the reality is that I don't want to hear that's what they're doing. They're doing this out of the kindness of their heart. The Nike recognizes an opportunity here. And a lot of people better recognize that. You better see it for what it is. Now, I ain't going to cast any aspersions on it, but damn it, black folks buy sneakers and foot apparel wear. White folks and everybody else too. I get it. But if you're a part of the black populace that makes up 14% of the American population, and your spending prowess exceeds $1.2 trillion, you know that's a big deal. Nike knows that's a big deal. They know who their audience is. They know who their constituency is. And by taking this position on, you want to label it as them being on the right side of history, as my man Max Kellerman tried to say? Or word it or put it any other way, be my guest. But in the end, what this comes down to is that they know what they're doing. And they know even though there's an immediate drop in shares this morning, plummeting to about 3% lower than what they're accustomed to, they're still up 27% year over year. They'll still end up making money because they know at the end of the day, you'll have black folks everywhere buying a T-shirt or some sneakers in support of Colin Kaepernick. That's exactly what they expect. Let's just call it what it is. Let's just call it what it is. And my point is, I ain't even mad at that. I don't have anything against Colin Kaepernick. How could I? What black person with sense would have something against Colin Kaepernick trying to bring attention to the issues that he tried to bring attention to? What I'm saying is, from a football perspective, can we sit up there and take the damn blinders off? He was 3-16 in his last 2 years as a starter. 1-10 in his last season as a quarterback of the San Francisco 49ers, even though it wasn't his fault they were so god-awful. I will remind y'all, however, that the San Francisco 49ers had about the same damn record last year when Jimmy Garoppolo arrived. They stunk. That brother gets there, they close the season winning 5 straight. Just as an aside. When you look at the San Francisco 49ers and you look at Colin Kaepernick, a 3-16 record his last 2 years as a starter, never completed better than 59% of his passes, and on top of it all, his QBR was below 50 both years. And he had lost his starting job to Blaine Gabbert before the protest. He lost the job. So what are we talking about here? You might sit up there, Stephen A., come on, man. Or you got to be, come on, bro. I mean, damn, dog, come on, man. Look, we going to be honest? You really think I'm going to come over these airwaves and lie? I got better things to do with my time. Colin Kaepernick, while I appreciate the sentiments that he expressed in explaining why he decided to kneel to begin with back in 2016, what is inescapable and what is undeniable is A, he never had a plan. B, the protest had never, his personal protest was quiet and respectful, and by the way, was not unpatriotic. But C, and perhaps most importantly, it never really gained steam until until President Trump went to Alabama and said, fire those SOBs. That's when it took steam. That's when it gained steam. And what disturbs me is Colin Kaepernick. I understand why he can't speak now because of the collusion case, but there were many times in the past where he could have spoken before and barely said anything. I've been told he had opportunities to meet with activists and people with cachet and clout that could have made differences on Capitol Hill, and he refused to meet with them. And what rakes my soul is that he seems to have sat back and let others speak while he's disappeared. And meanwhile, the issue has first been hijacked by the president, who uses it as an evasive tactic whenever he wants to. Because let's talk about him in the NFL rather than talk about other things. And now you got Nike essentially doing the same thing to profit off of it. Ladies and gentlemen, those T-shirts or any shoe apparel that they put out, it ain't going to be for free. Let them come out with Colin Kaepernick. Let them put cornrows on their sneakers, on their T-shirts, or put him and a silhouette of him taking a knee and all of that stuff. I promise you, it won't be for free. And I'm not saying it should be. I'm not faulting Nike for this. I'm just saying don't try to tell us it's something other than it is. Let's not act like that. Let's not be so damn fools. Let's call it what it is. They know exactly what they're doing, and they're in the business to make money. Let's not sit up there and try to martyr them too. And at some point in time, we're going to have to ask ourselves, where's this getting us? We march on Capitol Hill. Have we spoken to elected officials and leaders about implementing change to make the world better? What exactly is it that we have done? Other than become divided about the NFL product, which had nothing to do with Colin Kaepernick's original protest. What is it that we're really accomplishing? Meanwhile, he can't get a job, but Le'Veon Bell can't get paid. Odell Beckham Jr. is getting paid, but proclaiming he feels like a zoo animal. Khalil Mack is in Chicago because the Oakland Raiders, who could find $100 million for John Gruden, couldn't find millions for Khalil Mack. Aaron Donald, thank God, is finally in L.A., having agreed to his contract and been fairly compensated for it. I mean, there's so much stuff going on. But this kind of stuff really irritates me. Because I'm kind of wondering, where the hell do we go from here? Where's the plan? I'm just going to put myself on First Street. I just want everybody to know, I'm so sick and damn tired of talking about this protest, I can't even put into words. Because I'm hearing about Colin Kaepernick all the damn time, but I haven't heard from him. And even though the collusion case is obviously a reason he shouldn't be talking now, that wasn't always the case when he was quiet. And if you're Colin Kaepernick, let me tell you something right now. America got issues, y'all. America might be recognized as the greatest country in the world to a lot of folks, but to a lot of folks, they might feel otherwise. I'm one of those who believes this is the greatest country on earth. Land of opportunity. It's far from perfect. Its imperfections are sometimes too damn flagrant. And it's annoying and disgusting sometimes to have to deal with the stuff that you have to deal with, not just as a minority. Just as a country that's founded on capitalism. And some of the salacious things or the underhanded things that go on, it just annoys you and it rakes your nerves sometimes. Fine. All of that's true. But I got to tell y'all something. There comes a time, and I'm sorry, I'm not sitting there trying to wax poetically about the red, white, and blue and all of that other stuff. But I got to tell you something. I don't know about y'all. But if I took a position and one of my supporters on that position tweets his support on my behalf, and his name is Mahmoud Ahmadinejad, who is the former president of Iran, I don't know how good I'd feel about that as an American citizen. That's who tweeted support for Colin Kaepernick last night. Mahmoud Ahmadinejad. Colin Kaepernick believes what he believes. He should fight the fight. And I appreciate his stance. I truly do. But some people have taken this a bit too far. And I'll include Nike in that group too, if they try to sell me on this notion that it was their conscience that provoked them to take this position, as opposed to dollars and cents. I'm just saying. 888-SAY-ESPN is always the number to call up. Keep listening, as you are now, live to the Stephen A. Smith Show on ESPN Radio and ESPN News. It's been a long off season without football, but FanDuel has spent it getting into the best shape of their lives. That means this. FanDuel is ready for more ways to play, more ways to challenge your friends, and most importantly, more ways to win. FanDuel also has new options for playing daily fantasy with your friends, because the only thing better than winning cash is winning your friends cash. Right now, you can get a $20 bonus when you make your first deposit on FanDuel. Just sign up at FanDuel.com/Stephen A. Age and state restrictions apply.
Message and data rates may apply.
When did it become okay for men to be lazier, softer, fatter? We need to bring the men of this country back to greatness. And it's easier than ever with Ageless Male Max, a patent-pending formula with an ingredient that helps boost your total testosterone, promoting greater increases in muscle size and twice the reduction of body fat percentage than exercise alone. Plus, an amazing 64% increase in nitric oxide, which can be handy in the gym and in the bedroom. Take your manhood to the max by trying your first 30-day bottle free. Just pay shipping and handling. Not 10 days, not 15 days, but a full 30-day supply free when you text the word LIFT to 797979. Finally, a formula that boosts total testosterone. If your results with Ageless Male Max are too intense, please decrease use. For your free bottle, text LIFT to 797979. Text LIFT to $79.79.79.
This is the Stephen A. Smith Show podcast.
I'm Stephen A. Welcome back to the Stephen A. Smith Show right here on ESPN Radio. 250 plus markets across the United States of America, plus ESPN Radio on Sirius XM Channel 80. And, of course, the Stephen A. Smith's ESPN Radio Show simulcast live on ESPN News every weekday, 1 to 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 10 a.m. to noon, West Coast time. Number to call up, as always, is 888-SAY-ESPN. It's 888-729-3776. I'm coming to you from my new digs in New York City. I'll be traveling throughout the country. I'll be in New York City. I'll be in L.A. I'll be all over the place, but doing the same old radio show, just from different locations as this season progresses. Again, the number to call up is 888-SAY-ESPN. It's 888-729-3776. I'll get back to the calls later on a variety of NFL topics and other things, but I'd be remiss in neglecting to hold off on having my next guest on. He is the creme de la creme, one of the elite football analysts in America. My buddy, the one and only Adam Schefter, is on the line with yours truly. What's going on, buddy? How you doing?
Stephen A., new radio digs for you there? The studios we were in yesterday?
Yeah, the studios we're in and all of that stuff. It's cool. I'm getting used to it and all of that other stuff. But bigger things are on the horizon for me, Adam Schefter. What can I say? The same can be said for you, buddy. You've got a new book out, The Man I Never Met, a memoir. Talk to me about that, first of all.
Well, Stephen A., if you'll remember, and I don't know whether you were doing NFL Live that year or not. I don't think so. It might have been the year after, but on the 15th anniversary of 9/11, on the opening day of the NFL season, ESPN was kind enough to do a feature on my wife's late husband who lost his life that day. And it was a way to honor his memory and tell people who he was, and it was a way to pay tribute to my wife and the strength and toughness that she has demonstrated after losing her husband while she had a 15-month-old son at the time. Wow. And that piece ran that day, and for anyone who hasn't seen it, they can go Google it. Just Google Adam Schefter's 9/11 tribute. And for 1 week, texts and emails kept rolling in. And I've never, ever done anything in the business over 28 years that ever generated that type of reaction, ever, not even close. And there were people who were so moved and inspired and touched by it that they wanted to turn it into a book. Now, I wondered whether or not there would be enough to do a TV piece and how to do the TV piece in the right way, in a tasteful way, to Joe's memory. But we did it, and it was well received, and there were people who felt that there should be a book. So over the last year and a half, we spent time getting that together, and the book comes out today. It's available in stores, online, Amazon, Barnes & Nobles, whatever it may be. And basically, it is the 200-page, expanded, detailed, personal version of the story that ran on the 15th anniversary of 9/11. That's basically what it is.
You know what, Adam, forgive me for continuing to ask about this, but I'm incredibly compelled by it. I got to ask you, as the man in her life now, I mean, what was that like for you to really chronicle these things? And obviously you have to have a lot of communication with her about this, of course, just to get into so many of it. How challenging was it for you and for your wonderful family to revisit these things, knowing how tragic that was?
Well, it's a hard thing, Stephen. And again, it's really asking my wife to go relive the darkest days of her life. And it's also difficult to do the same thing with the Mayo family, Joe's parents, Paula and George. And so even though this is a heartbreaking and heartwarming story filled with grief and hope, and even though it's written to hopefully inspire people who have been through difficult circumstances, the truth of the matter is it was written for 4 people, Paula and George and Shari and Devin. And Devin, like I said, was 15 months when he lost his dad, really never knew his dad. I was at dinner last night with some friends. They have a 15-month-old son. I said to them at one point during dinner, I'm like, how old is Bauer? And they said, he's 15 months old. I'm like, that's how old Devin was when he lost his dad. And here's a kid running around, the dining area, and, he's just started walking, can't fully talk, can't chew his food, and that's how old Devin was when he lost his dad. And so for my wife to relive those details is very difficult. But the fortunate part for us was that when ESPN did the piece, it took my wife weeks to build up to that and to be ready to do it. Mm-hmm. And the great producer, Dominique Collins, came to our house, and she interviewed Shari and interviewed her for 4 hours. Mm. She saved all the transcripts. And so I was able to work with those transcripts and not have to go back and ask a lot of those questions to relive the details of that day specifically. And I personally have kept a journal every day of my life since 1990. I have every day documented. So when I was writing the book and I was working with my co-author, Michael Rosenberg, he would say, hey, send me the week of your journal when you proposed to Shari. Send me the week of your journal during 9/11. And I would just send it to him. And everything in my life was detailed. So it was all there for him to sift through and pick through and find the most... And he would find things in there, honestly, and this is why I keep a journal, that I didn't even remember. Mm-hmm. Like, on the day that I was proposing to her, I was in Pittsburgh doing a Steelers-Browns Thursday night football game for NFL Network. At the time, I was the sideline reporter when Brian Gumbel was the play-by-play guy and Chris Collinsworth was the color analyst, and flying home from Pittsburgh, and I wrote my journal, and you wouldn't believe it if you hadn't seen it, but it's here, and it was there, and this is why I keep a journal, but my co-author found it. He said, do you realize what you wrote that day? I said, no. He said, you're going to propose to Shari tonight? He said, I just want to make Joe's family proud. I want to make Joe proud. And I hadn't remembered that at all, but it was there in the journal, and obviously it's in the book. And so it's a wide-ranging story that really tries to detail the type of man that Joe was and the type of life that Shari was forced to lead and the instances in which we came together there to wind up getting married.
Adam Schefter, how is it, before I get on to some transition into some football questions, got to ask you this. Football season obviously starts in September every year. Yeah. And obviously we all know 9/11. We all remember where we were at that moment, at that tragic moment in our nation's history. What is it like for you on a year-to-year basis for the football season to start? Not just having the memories of 9/11 just for yourself, but knowing the memories that you just described are now part of your life, obviously, because of your lovely wife and family.
Well, you know, it's funny because next Tuesday we have to do some things surrounding the book in the city, and I was talking to Shari, and she's like, look, I'm not going anywhere until we watch the reading of the names. Mm-hmm. And I would tell you that it's different, but it's not, because it's been this way every year. This is sort of the life that we lead. This is the life I chose. This is the circumstances that are in our life. And by the way, you know, this is our story. There are 3,000 of them from that day that have all sorts of tentacles and all sorts of reaches and all sorts of people who were affected in their own tragic, heartbreaking ways, right? So, you know, we're not any different in that regard. This just happens to be our story, and I'm fortunate enough to work for ESPN, so I get to share that story sometimes in ways that I wouldn't have imagined. But there are a lot of people with a lot of stories from that day, and this has just become our life. Just like somebody who's married to a divorcee with 2 kids, well, the 2 kids are part of their life. Or somebody who is married to somebody who's got a sickness, that's a part of their life. This is a part of our life. That's how it is, and it's that way with a lot of families who had a special connection, a horrible connection, to the most memorable day in our lifetimes.
Mm. The great Adam Schefter, the new book out, The Man I Never Met, a memoir. The great Adam Schefter, right here with Stephen A. on ESPN Radio and ESPN News. Adam, let's transition to stuff that's been going on the field. Le'Veon Bell still has not reported to the Pittsburgh Steelers. He's not there. Talk to me about what you think the future holds for him for this upcoming season, and what kind of effect, if any, do you anticipate it'll all have on the Pittsburgh Steelers this season?
Well, again, Stephen, he's not there right now. Mike Tomlin said today he has not spoken to Le'Veon this week, doesn't know when he's coming in. I think there are some players who have said that they think he'll be in tomorrow, but then again, there were players who initially said that he would be in Labor Day, and he's not. Mm-hmm. And so even if he does come in tomorrow, which is a best-case scenario, how ready do you think he's going to be for the opening game against the Cleveland Browns on Sunday? Like, can you go ride that guy 20 carries and 5 receptions? It's a lot to ask, and they may try to do that. But if you go back to last year when he held out till Labor Day weekend, he started slow the first 4 games of the year and then came on like crazy because he's that good and that talented. And it might be the same this year as well, where there's a similarly slow start before he charges ahead and makes a difference. But, again, it's not an ideal circumstance for either side. Le'Veon wanted the contract. The Steelers wanted their running back, and neither side right now has what it wants.
Adam Schefter, as I look to the signings, I look at the Khalil Mack trade that ended up with him in Chicago. I looked at Aaron Donald, and he finally got paid by L.A. I look at Odell Beckham Jr., and he finally got taken care of by the New York Giants. Who needed that to happen most amongst those 3 teams? L.A., New York, Chicago. Who needed the moves that they ultimately made more desperately than the others?
Well, see, I would just say they all did, right? I mean, and I could justify it that way. I don't mean to not give you an answer, but
sure.
But the Giants, there might have been unrest if Odell didn't get the deal. And of the 3, I would say that was the least necessary. The Bears, look, the Bears coveted it. Khalil Mack all summer long. They were calling the Raiders and trying to get him loose, and the Raiders didn't come around. And look, the Bears would have been good without him. I think the defense would have been better, but now it'll take another step up. So I put the Bears with the Giants. And then by process of elimination, I think the Rams and Donald most of all had to get it done. And I say that because of this. He's their best player, better than Todd Gurley. And if you don't get a deal done for him, what kind of message does it send to the rest of the team if you don't sign your best player?
But how come that thinking doesn't apply when it comes to Le'Veon Bell with the Pittsburgh Steelers? Unless you're making the argument that obviously Antonio Brown might be their best player or whatever. I guess I'm just looking at it from the standpoint, considering the level of production that he has given you and how important he is to the team's success of 406 touches last year. How come the same mentality isn't applicable to him?
I guess the one thing you'd say there is that the Steelers made an effort in which they were offering to make him at that time the highest paid running back in the game, offering him $15 million a year with $33 million guaranteed in the first couple of years. So they made a compelling offer, and Le'Veon nearly took it. I think there were people who thought the deal was going to get done in each of the 2 years, and both times he backed away. And I don't think anybody could say that the Steelers didn't make a compelling offer. Mm-hmm. Obviously, Le'Veon did not think it was fair enough, and he thought he would deserve more. My concern there is that you turn down $15 million a year, and you might be right in your thinking that you're a $17 million a year player.
Right.
But what are we talking about in the grand scheme of things when you play that position and get that workload? Is it worth risking your body for an extra $2-3 million a year over the span of a 3-4 year contract? Is that worth it?
I don't think so either. But Adam, I'll point to something that you said that I found very interesting. You said this weeks ago. You said the priority for Le'Veon Bell has to be being healthy.
Correct.
In 2019 free agency. That's the priority.
Correct.
So my question to you is, what does that mean? Does he not show up until a few weeks from now? Does he miss the whole season just to ensure that he's healthy for 2019? What are his options?
Well, his options are to play out the season and become a free agent after this year. But his options are, look, I think most players, look, everybody wants to get paid, Stephen A. Every player. It's important to preserve your health and do good work and play well and help your team win. But I think with him, as much as anybody in the league right now, his priority has to be to get to March healthy because he's got as much to gain as anybody. Now, Kirk Cousins took that gamble a year ago, but it was at the quarterback position. And he's not getting hit 400 times during the course of the season.
Correct.
So, again, I think Le'Veon Bell's priority, in his mind, again, we think that the Steelers made a compelling offer. But in his mind, the Steelers didn't do enough to keep him in each of the last 2 years. So what loyalty does he have to them right now going into the season? And I made the argument weeks ago that if I were him, I don't know that you'd see me until week 6, 7, 8.
Because
and I know it's a
why at that particular moment in time? Why week 6, 7, or 8 as opposed to missing the whole season?
You have to be in by week 8.
Okay.
To have this season credited and not have the contract toll.
Got it.
So if you come in by week 8, you play out the 8 games, then you become a free agent after this year. Now, some people said to me it's 8. Some people said to me it's 10. So I'm not sure whether the number is 10 or 8. Okay, but let's operate under the 8 assumption. If you miss the first half of the season, just do the math, it's $865,000 per week.
Yep.
So let's call it 900 times 8. You're passing up $7.2 million by not playing in those games. But on the open market, if you're healthy, you should be getting next off season. I have to see what Todd Gurley got in guaranteed money, $40 million in guaranteed money.
Yeah.
You're locking that in. So if your goal is to preserve your health, then wouldn't you want to report as late as possible? And, oh, by the way, when I reported after 8 weeks, and I'm running and taking my conditioning test after I saw my franchise tender, I would be like, boy, my hamstrings bother me. It's really tight now. Really tight. I just don't know that I can play Sunday.
Adam Schefter right here with Stephen A. on ESPN Radio and ESPN News. That's funny because I totally agree with you. Let's get to the quarterback's position real quick. Sam Darnold being inserted as a starting quarterback for the New York Jets. My mentality was, you know what? Josh McCown is a veteran. You know what? You don't have a number one receiver. I don't know if you have a game-changing running back, even though I like both Powell and Crowell. I'm of the mindset, guess what? What's wrong with making Sam Darnold wait a few weeks and let Josh McCown come in there and just set the table for Sam Darnold once you got all your other ducks in a row? How did you feel about the Jets announcing that Sam Darnold is their starting quarterback now?
You know, Steve, they're there watching practice every day. Mm-hmm. And the one thing that you hear when you speak to the Jets is that Sam Darnold has gotten better and better every single day. Mm-hmm. He takes instruction at practice and improves all the time. Mm-hmm. And so they believe he's ready. Now, I don't know that he is or isn't, but they believe he is. And so if they think he's ready, and by the way, he will become the youngest quarterback to ever start an NFL opening day game, then give him the chance. But we've never seen anybody younger than him. And by the way, if he is what the Jets say he is, then the Jets should have the quarterback position secure for the next 17 or 18 years. He's 21 years old, Stephen A. Think about that.
Is there something to be said about putting somebody in too early? Because we are worried about that with Baker Mayfield and the Cleveland Browns, because the Lord knows what they've done with the quarterback position over the years.
And especially when the Jets' offensive line has some question marks going into the season, too, when you know whoever's playing quarterback is going to be under duress and under a lot of pressure. I mean, that's absolutely a consideration, but again, they feel good enough about him that they feel like they need to put him out there and should put him out there. Now, you know, I happen to like Josh McCown as a quarterback, and I think he's pretty good. And to me, it would take a lot for me to bench McCown early on for Darnold. And you look at what the Buffalo Bills did. They went with Nathan Peterman.
Yes.
Because they saw in the preseason that Josh Allen did not look to be ready. And as important it is for these teams, the Jets and the Browns and the Cardinals and the Ravens and all these teams that have young quarterbacks to win this year, it's really most important to grow that quarterback for the long-term health of that franchise.
By the way, how is Josh Rosen doing in Arizona? What have you heard about him?
They think he's great. They're really pleased, but guess what? They're really pleased about Sam Bradford, too, and Sam Bradford is healthy and upright, and as long as he's healthy and upright and experienced, he's going to be out there.
Adam Schefter right here with Stephen A. on ESPN Radio. Just a couple more questions before I let you go. You got Case Keenum in Denver. You got Kirk Cousins in Minnesota. We know Aaron Rodgers is back and what have you. I mean, when you think about the quarterback position throughout the league, what should we keep our eyes on? What do you think is the most intriguing scenario from the quarterback position as this NFL season gets set to unfold?
You know, Stephen, we got a lot of veteran quarterbacks here. Tom Brady, Drew Brees, Phillip Rivers, Ben Roethlisberger, towards the tail end of their careers. But it certainly seems like we are entering into a period where there is a new breed of quarterbacks and a young group of quarterbacks that's going to be up and coming here that the league can continue to build around. I mean, you look at guys like Jared Goff and Jimmy Garoppolo and Andrew Luck and Matthew Stafford and Patrick Mahomes and Mitchell Trubisky, who the Bears like, and Dak Prescott, Jameis Winston, who suspended the first 3 games, and all the young quarterbacks that were drafted this year. It would seem that the NFL has found some successors to some of these veteran quarterbacks who are on the backside of the mountain. And so I think that's interesting to watch. Look, it's always interesting to watch Tom Brady and how long he could sustain everything that he's done. And Drew Brees, same story. And Aaron Rodgers coming off the injuries. And the great quarterbacks of the game. I mean, there's always fascination with them. But I also think it's interesting to see how some of these young quarterbacks are going to grow into that role and be handed the baton of the league's success, as it will be up to them to carry it forward.
Adam Schefter, before I let you get on out of here, this question is of a personal nature to some degree, just based on your 2 decades plus covering the National Football League. You saw the news last night about Nike connecting with Colin Kaepernick, signing him to a new multi-year deal, making him the face commemorating their 30th anniversary of their Just Do It campaign. We've seen, the fallout from that. Some people have spoken out against it. Other people have said they've benefited exponentially from making this decision. But this is on the heels of the collusion case against the National Football League by Colin Kaepernick. This is on the heels of the NFL and the NFLPA still not coming to an agreement on this whole national anthem protest issue. We know what last season must have been like for all of us, in terms of it being the headache covering the league, because we were talking about so many things other than just football. How concerned are you that this season is going to be compromised somewhat in light of the timing of this announcement, with Nike clearly getting on the side of Colin Kaepernick right on the heels of another NFL season?
I don't know that Kaepernick hangs over the season so much as the anthem issue does. Mm-hmm. And the issue obviously was a tremendous concern. You spoke to people last year, and the one thing you'd hear was that this issue has been more damaging to the league than every other issue in recent years combined together. You could take all the discussions about suspensions and arrests and domestic violence and concussions and whatever it may be that has been damaging to the league. Put them all together, and I think owners felt like that the talk of the anthem and the protests hurt the league more than anything else. And I think that the owners made a mistake, the league made a mistake, when it implemented an alleged new anthem policy in the spring. Just to let it go. The issue was dying down, and the league itself opened it up in response to the president or whatever it was. And you'll notice now there have been discussions between the NFL and the NFLPA, and there's been no resolution.
Right.
Why would there be a resolution? Like, what is the we know there's no resolution.
Yeah.
There is no resolution that's going to make everybody happy. There are people that have opinions on 2 different matters, and either you're for it or against it, with it or not. And so you're going to be upsetting some group with whatever policy there is. So the best policy is no policy. And so I love these breathless reports on their meeting today.
Yeah,
they'll keep meeting. you ain't going to hear any solution.
You ain't going to hear the solution. That's the truth. Adam Schefter, new book out, The Man I Never Met, a memoir, in stores today. Appreciate you, buddy. Thank you so much. You take care of yourself.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it. I hope to see you soon.
Absolutely. The one and only Adam Schefter right here with Stephen A. You are listening live to the Stephen A. Smith Show on ESPN Radio and simulcast on ESPN News.
Ricky always wanted to play baseball in the majors. He was playing catch before he could walk, practically lived in the batting cages. He was behind home plate more than he was home. And one day, after all that hard work, he found himself walking into a Major League Baseball stadium. After buying a ticket at the front gate, a nosebleed seat obscured by a pole, but he was in there. No, Ricky never did play in the big leagues, but he did switch his car insurance to Geico, proud partner of Major League Baseball, which saved him a lot. So, all in all, things were good.
You're listening to the Stephen A. Smith Show podcast.
Stephen A. Smith Show is being brought to you by Discover Card. We treat you like you treat you, which is why we think annual fees are ridiculous. We bet you do too. To see all the ways Discover is looking out for you, go to discover.com or give us a call at 1-800-DISCOVER. By the way, time for Straight Talk, brought to you by Straight Talk Wireless, best phones, best networks, no contracts. Let's get to the phones at 888-SAY-ESPN. It's 888-729-3776. Anthony, you're live with Stephen A. Talk to me. How are you?
Stephen A., sorry, but I'm about to get on your nerves right now. Okay. I don't understand what the beef is with the Kaepernick and Nike deal. Everybody out here is getting paid. Nike's going to get paid with or without Kaepernick, regardless. So if Kaepernick went out, found him a platform you know what I'm saying, as big as the NFL, to keep spreading his message and at the same time get paid off of it still.
Who said somebody should have a problem with Kaepernick about Nike? I didn't say that.
I mean, you're coming out against it. Like,
time out. Don't give me that. I said I didn't have a problem with Kaepernick at all. So the point is, if you're going to sit up there and take a position against what I'm saying, then at least interpret and disseminate what I'm saying accurately. What I'm saying is Nike is trying to get paid. I got no problem with what they're doing so long as we understand they're trying to get paid. Don't play this as if, oh my goodness, you raising the fist and you ready to be down for the cause. Colin Kaepernick's been going through this for 2 years. We ain't heard from Nike. So my point is we understand what they're doing. And we also understand that there's going to be a whole bunch of people rallying out there. But at some point in time, you got to ask what's the plan and what's the change. I want Colin Kaepernick to get paid. I don't want him unemployed. But I also remember that he was 3-16 as a starter. I also remember that he completed less than 60% of his passes. I also remember that he had a QBR of under 50. Now, that doesn't mean he doesn't deserve a job because we know there's a bunch of scrubs in the NFL that are getting paid. And Colin Kaepernick is no scrub. So if they're getting paid, he deserves to get paid based on merit. We get that. But we also understand that because of what he's found himself in, the president hijacked the issue on one end, Anthony, by turning it into an issue of patriotism when that was never the case. And then on the other hand, now you got Nike that's going to find itself in a position where everybody's talking about it instead of Colin Kaepernick. And they're going to get paid. Meanwhile, racial oppression, police brutality, inequality, et cetera, those problems that were being complained about before ain't going to go any damn place. That's what I'm saying. To that you say what?
You're absolutely right about Nike, but nobody was sitting out here talking about Nike's going to take the baton now and leave the and
No, I'm saying that. No, I'm saying that, Anthony. I'm saying nobody said that. I'm saying that's what I thought when I first learned the news. That's what I'm saying.
That's not how. When I first heard the news, how I took it was good. At least Kaepernick found himself another platform.
Got it.
That, oh my God, here comes Nike. Now, Nike's going to be here after Kaepernick, regardless. So I don't care about Nike.
Okay.
Nike's worth billions.
Okay. Well, let me ask you a question. So you like the fact that Colin Kaepernick has got this outlet and this platform, right? May I ask you a question? What are you hoping will get accomplished by it?
Something. Anything.
No. Come on, Anthony. I'm going to get on you now. You smarter than that, bro. You're a smart brother. You've called up to this show before. You ain't dumb. You know what you're saying. Don't give me anything. I asked you a direct question. What are you hoping Colin Kaepernick's protest ultimately accomplishes?
To be honest with you, I'm hoping more players get online and protest also. Because there ain't nothing else going to change. I got another question. Do you think it's going to happen? Absolutely not. But that don't mean we stop trying.
Got it. I respect that, Anthony. I respect that answer. Because that's real. You don't think it's going to happen. You don't think anything's going to come of it, but it doesn't mean we should stop trying. I can respect your position on that, Anthony. And I thank you for the call, my man. I really, really do. Let's go to Sean. You're live with Stephen A. on ESPN Radio. What's up, man?
Hey, Stephen A. Love the show.
Thank you. Go ahead.
My question
Good to be back. Go ahead.
If the Steelers can't get this deal done with Le'Veon Bell, where do you think he ends up?
I don't know where he ends up, but I'll tell you where the Steelers end up. They're going to end up on the outside looking in at another Super Bowl opportunity.
Is there anybody that's better than him right now?
I don't think so, but we also got to remember Todd Gurley can ball. And the way he'll be utilized, you never know. You got Ezekiel Elliott. He don't have to worry about a 6-game suspension. He's going to be there. And obviously the Dallas Cowboys offense is going to evolve around him. He could make some noise. Saquon Barkley, we don't know what kind of stud he is with Sterling Shepard, Evan Ingram, and obviously Odell Beckham Jr. in that lineup with a buffered offensive line and the experience of a 2-time Super Bowl champion, Eli Manning, at the quarterback position. Saquon Barkley might do some damage. How about David Johnson in Arizona? Got the wrist injury he's coming off of, but it wasn't a knee or an Achilles tear or an ankle injury. Then this brother could play. He was special talent. And in Arizona, you got Bradford and you got Rosen. You'll need David Johnson to be that stud in order to make some noise. Then you got Kamara in New Orleans. You can't ignore what he brings to the table. He averaged more than 6 yards a carry. So I'm looking at a whole bunch of people that have quality running backs that can make some noise and what have you. I don't even have Le'Veon Bell in my top 5. You know why, Sean? Because Le'Veon Bell, when he comes back, I don't believe he's going to be in a position to give his all and jeopardize his health. I think his primary focus is going to be on staying healthy so he can be in the 2019 free agent class. That's Le'Veon Bell. That's what I believe. And as a result, I think he's going to be compromised to some degree.
Yeah. No, I agree.
All right. Appreciate the call, man. Thank you so much. Let's go to my buddy, Carlton. You're live with Stephen A. Long time no speak, buddy. How are you?
I'm good. How you doing?
I'm doing all right, man. Thanks for calling.
Those left-leaning lunatics outside of Portland, Oregon are going to rue the day that they decided to anoint Colin Kaepernick as the face of the Nike brand. I think they should change this new slogan from believe in something, even if it means sacrificing everything, to be a complete narcissist, even if it means throwing your current and prospective teammates under the bus, which is exactly what Colin Kaepernick did, Stephen A. He turned home field advantage into home field disadvantage when all of the San Francisco 49er fans were booing him every time he came on the field. He alienated all of law enforcement when he decided to wear the pig socks. He alienated Cuban Americans and the Miami Dolphins when they were thinking about bringing him in for a tryout. He alienated the Baltimore Ravens, the Hall of Famer Ray Lewis, and the owner of the Ravens, Steve Bisciotti, when he allowed his girlfriend to compare him to vile characters in Django. This is a guy whose sole focus has been on himself and not all the people around him who he's affecting. And Nike should realize, but I guess they don't, that actually law enforcement officers and Cuban Americans and people who believe you should stand for the flag and team unity and people who believe that Castro is a left-wing dictator, they also buy apparel. In fact, a bunch of them used to buy Nike apparel until perhaps today. Well, I think that this is a colossal mistake because of their political perspective out there on that left coast.
Hold on, Carlton. Let me read this story to you because I wanted to make sure I get a comment from you before I let you go about this. In less than 24 hours since Kaepernick first revealed the spot on Twitter with Nike, Nike received more than $43 million worth of media exposure, the vast majority of it neutral to positive, according to the Apex Marketing Group. That far outweighs the risk of alienating some customers, according to Bob Dorfman, a sports marketing executive at Baker Street Advertising.
To that you say what? To that you say what? The majority of it, and they use the word neutral or positive, it means it wasn't positive. It wasn't all positive, Stephen A. Apex has probably been hired by Nike to do this polling, and they ain't going to spin it negative. And I'm telling you, there's a whole bunch of Americans that are going to say, the hell with it, I'll buy Under Armour, I'll buy Adidas, I will buy, New Balance, I will buy Asics. There's lots of, and Nike has the biggest market share. So they're risking alienating a huge fraction of people that are already spending their hard-earned dollars on Nike gear. I think this was an idiotic move, but we will see. I want to make one other comment.
Real quick, go ahead,
and that's about Khalil Mack. All of the press has been that the Raiders didn't know what they were doing, letting go Khalil Mack. I want to ask you, Stephen A., would you rather have 2 mid-first-round draft picks, because that's all we can expect. We don't know where they'll be in the first-round draft pick. You're paying who average $3.5 million a year over their life for their 5-year rookie contracts, including the 5th-year option that you get with a first-round draft pick, plus a $16 million a year player, which you could all afford under the $23 to $24 million that Khalil Mack is going to get paid each year with the Chicago Bears. Would you rather have 3 guys? One of them's getting paid $16 million. You can get a phenomenal free agent plus 2 first-round draft picks.
Well, you can look at it that way, Carlton. My point is this: are you trying to win or not? Number one. Number two, I'm looking at a guy like John Gruden. You've been out of the game for a decade. The 6 previous years you coached in the National Football League. You went to the playoffs just twice and you didn't win a single playoff game. game. That's 16 years that you haven't even won a playoff game since winning the Super Bowl in 2003 for the 2002 season, that is. And you go there, you're buffing your offensive line. You've got your quarterback and what have you, but you're not really paying any attention to the defensive side of the ball. I'm like, look, listen, if you're not trying to do anything with your defense, you don't pay him. But if you're trying to win, you are drafting to get your hands on somebody of this magnitude. And I think for Raider Nation and people like that, I think you got to pay guys like this, Carlton.
I'll select them both on the defense, and I'll go out and hire somebody for $16 million a year to be in my secondary, and they will cumulatively make more of an impact than Khalil Mack alone will. He's a great player. He's just not worth that kind